Hey Totoro, did you see John Flickinger's new video? He went to go pick up the Avengers Endgame Steelbook and then decides, a few spoilers, if he didn't actually get the Steelbook. He just got the regular 4K film. So that's what he's doing. Well, anyway, I want to say hi to John Flickinger and all my subscribers here at Hertastic Reviews. It's your host, Chris. And, today I saw a Spirit of Halloween post today on Twitter, which means the end of summer and the start of what I like to consider the spooky season. I know my friend over at the Cobwebs podcast, Daniel, he loves to call everything spooky, so I'm kind of taking that one today for the video. So Totoro and I, as you can see, he's the co-host now because, my neighbor Totoro is amazing. But today we're going to be talking about, because I'm feeling real spooky. It's late at night. Spirit of Halloween is starting to open up. I'm going to have to apply for a manager position soon. No, but today, we're going to talk about another drive-in double horror feature. Last time I did this, it was a 1979 special where we talked about The Sentinel with the double feature with Abel Ferreira's Driller Killer. So today, for the double feature, I thought, you know what? Let's kind of go away from I know, it's scary, and I'm sure Cyril at Midnight is going back in his little hole to watch his older horror video, not horror, but just older movies in general. But I want to talk about new movies, okay? I love the old stuff, but we have to talk about the new. There's so much great horror out right now. So I was thinking, you know what? It's a close to the decade soon. What are some horror movies that are really sticking out for me? So I want to talk about 2014's It Follows. And I want to double feature that one today with the 2018's Hellfest. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's going to follow you into Hellfest. And Totoro, close your ears. These movies kick ass, okay? Simple as that. I'll talk about both films in a little bit, but I want to the reason for having these as a double feature is, one, they're 4 years apart, okay? So I think there's some, interest there. Both of them are kind of like smaller budget, kind of like indie horror movies. It Follows is more of a slow, kind of like a Paranormal Entity type horror movie that has it's all about like the characters and like this insane plot twist of an invisible entity following. So It Follows our characters. And I think it would go really well with Hellfest. Well, one, so I can talk about Hellfest because I was very late to the party. I mean, the party had already packed up. It was already in distant memory. We won't forget kind of. But, I finally went to Family Video and picked this bad boy up for like $4. So I popped it in with my girlfriend, and she kind of was like, thinking the movie was too much, and I was like, why isn't Hellfest a real life thing now? I mean, we have Spirit of Halloween. I think we're a vodka Red Bull away from a Hellfest theme park coming out soon. I'm really excited to talk about Hellfest because it does take place in a theme park, like I said, that's all about Halloween. And to me, that sounds amazing, and I want to also work there, but instead of like just taking stuff, I just want to be one of those like carnies who like runs like really old, broken rides. I'm probably offending carny folk now too. I'm so sorry. You're actually like my idols. We're gonna talk about Hellfest a little bit more. So get comfy, get a little spooked. We're gonna talk about some really great horrors here now. So to start with 2014's It Follows. This film, I was also late. Oop, Totoro's fallen. I was a little late to the party on this one as well. I watched it in college with a friend of mine. We just popped it in one night. Well, actually, we tried watching another kind of horror movie that I wish I remember what it was called. It was a Scream Factory release that surprisingly wasn't very good. It was something about like a birth of sorts. But we decided to put on It Follows instead. That sounds so weird, a movie about birth from Scream Factory. We put in It Follows instead, and I've heard so much about it, and I just wanted to check it out. But we ended up like just being glued to the TV. I was just so interested in the concept of the movie and the delivery of it. Basically, the concept is that this girl named Jay realizes that there's this entity that's invisible to her and takes the form of like people that is pursuing her. And the way that this we call it an entity, I guess. This entity is like pursuing her is because it transfers from sexual relations of sorts. I'm sure a few of you are kind of going, oh yeah. So basically this entity, it follows person to person based on almost like an STD, like it's a, for those of you who skipped health class, STD means a sexually transmitted disease. Once a person who has this entity chasing them has sex with somebody, they're kind of scot-free, clean, and the entity now pursues that person that they had sex with, which sounds insane. I know, but it really works well. So now Jay, who you can see here, is being pursued by this entity, and she's trying to figure out a way of how to survive, because like most STDs, they never go away. God. So she's kind of enlisting the help of her friends, one of them named Paul, and this entity is chasing her around, and she's coming out with this plot to like get rid of it, because like I said, it's a never-ending pursuit. Like this thing is gonna follow her until it kills her, takes over like how she looks, and then on to the next one. There's some weird parts in this movie where Jay is the girl, her friend Paul is like, I'll have sex with you, and have this entity pursue me, which is like kind of like his like trying to help her, but I'm sure like he's also just trying to have sex too. Man, this is a very non-PG-13 episode. But when you come horror, I mean, it's speaking a lot to it. The whole trope of having the couple that has sex, they're going to be the ones that get killed. This movie's kind of taking that for a ride a little bit. Ultimately, she's trying to figure out a way of how to defeat this entity. Basically is all you need to see. It's 100 minutes long. I think it's a little bit more than just 100 minutes. So it's a little bit longer. I think it's not slow at all. I mean, there's always so much build up to the final confrontation and a very crazy plot twist at the end that may or may not signal a sequel. Totoro and I are like, yeah, we want a sequel. But at the same time, I'd be super happy if this movie is just a standalone by itself, because it is a very amazing horror movie. Like I said, it came out 2014. This guy just graduated high school, was still watching DVDs from Family Video. So, I really missed out on this movie when it first came out. I probably wouldn't have even liked it because I was kind of like a dude bro. Not to offend Flickpick, but I was kind of like a dude bro with my movies. And I'm glad I finally was a little bit more mature to watch this movie, and I really, really, really applaud this movie. So also a little bit of like, you can laugh at me in the comment sections. The female lead in this movie, I actually thought was Brie Larson for some unknown reason. She just really looked like Brie Larson. So in an earlier video, I said like Captain Marvel is on the back. Well, no, it's not, Chris. You're kind of stupid. So I'm going to forever hate myself because of that video. So we're going to flick that one over there. So we got down with It Follows in 2014. Amazing movie. It's got amazing reviews, so please check that out. So after you finish your watch of It Follows, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. But you know what? Let's crank it up a notch. Let's take about 10 to 20 minutes off the runtime. We're going to speed through the thrills so we can get more kills. So 2018 came around, and Hereditary, oh my gosh, amazing stuff. This one movie just kind of went over my head. And I don't even know how I feel about Hereditary anymore, hot take. 2018 was like roaming around, and I was just, the Meg had also, I think, come out during the summer. I was like, holy crap, the Meg is awesome. Better than Jaws. We'll see what the comments roast me on that one. This movie went over my head. I didn't even know anything about it until Daniel from Cobwebs also talked about this movie again, and I really love his cherishment of this movie. I was like, Halloween, super awesome. One of the best of the year. And I can't believe I saw that without also seeing Hellfest, because I think they're very similar. I love Halloween a little bit more, but Hellfest is bomb. So we're going to talk about 2018's Hellfest. The horror community loves this movie. And you know what? With good purpose to it. This movie freaking is awesome. So let me just give you the premise of this movie. So a group of girls, they're reuniting because they used to be really close friends, but then they moved away, and then they came back, kind of similar to me and my friends' relationship. They're all together for one thing in common, but that's to get scared to death. So they go to this annual like amusement park that's horror themed called Hellfest. And so there's like all the girls that are like on their, you know, they have their boyfriends and stuff like that. But then there's one girl who's our main protagonist who gets set up on a double date to go to an amusement park called Hellfest. And you know what, honestly, that sounds like a horrible double date. I mean, what are you supposed to talk about? And then you get supposed to like be very vulnerable with going on rides, and especially get scared. But I mean, it is kind of cute. But at the same time, I was like, I do not want to be in a first date going to this place. But like Totoro was saying, it's a theme park where, you know, scary stuff happens. If you ever go to haunted houses or like haunted asylums, you can sign your death warrant to have people touch you. I remember one time I was a haunted house and I think a clown kept grabbing my butt, and like I didn't complain either. Or maybe I just watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space maybe one too many times. That's kind of developed into a fantasy of mine now too. Basically, you know, these things can like have traumatizing events is what I'm trying to say. But with Hellfest, there's a lot of people who are wearing masks, and the kind of the hook is the last time there was a Hellfest, there was some maniac who was killing people in a different location, and they couldn't locate him or her because, you know, they was wearing a mask and it was everywhere. So that's kind of like the boo gotcha, like reason to like these kids teenagers want to go to Hellfest to see this maybe come into fruition. Not really, because they don't want to die, but I mean, just the thought of it is just enough to go. So anyway, they go, and Hellfest is like, you know, the bomb.com of anything. It puts Six Flags to shame, because, you know, there's people literally chasing people around with like weapons, and like, you know, these rides look like they're gonna break down, and like the vibes are so cool, and the food looks good, and like girls are just cursing and guys are just going at it and like putting their arms around their girls, and it's really good vibes is basically what I'm saying. It's like Halloween for adults. Eventually, one of the main girl realizes that this one hooded guy is like pursuing her on purpose, and she gets kind of creeped out, and there's a scene, I don't want to spoil it too much because it's badass, but she kind of witnesses a murder happen in front of her, and she cannot tell if it was real or not, but she's almost certain it was real, and she runs away, and the mass murderer knows who she is. So now he's pursuing her throughout this entire time at the amusement park. Her friends kind of don't believe her, and then they definitely believe her. And yeah, so that's kind of what the premise is. I don't want to ruin too much because this movie freaking is awesome, and you need to watch this movie. Sorry, this movie is just like, I'm really passionate about this movie because it is awesome. I was not expecting it to be as cool as it was, especially when you watch something like It Follows before or after. This movie's, it's basically the adrenaline rush is like a vodka Red Bull. It's gonna like keep you going. It's an upper and a downer. Because there's some parts in this movie where it's like the acceleration of like intensity is there, and then there's kind of just conversations with the teenagers and stuff like that. And you know, normally I like convos, but I mean, sometimes the characters in this movie, they're kind of like stereotypes, and the conversations maybe don't mesh well, or they don't mean anything sometimes. And I don't feel like I really need to know the people in this movie really too much. I'm mostly hooked on the setting so much. But you know, I mean, that's the only thing I have to say about this movie, and it's kind of like its flaw. But either way, it's still badass, and there's a lot of shocking scenes of gore and horror that you will not see coming. People call this movie like a Halloween knockoff, and I think it should not get that title. It definitely can stand alone. If there was more movies like this, I mean, I would want a franchise of this. I would binge these things to death. But, you know, as a standalone, I think it's going to be one of those overlooked gems for the decade. But man, this movie is freaking awesome. And man, the ending, much like It Follows, is very ambiguous, and it is chilling AF. And oh my gosh, I think it's a really solid ending. I think it's one of the better horror endings for like most franchises too. And I know Totoro agrees too, because he was scared to death. My girlfriend kind of was like meh about the ending, but ultimately she did really like the movie, and I did too. I kept just saying Hellfest, Hellfest, hell yeah. This movie is amazing. A solid entry into the horror movies. Okay, but yeah, you know what? That's been just like my little take on like a horror drive-in you could do before the decade ends. Maybe you have some spots in your top 10 films of the decade, or your top 10 moment films, or I don't know, whatever list you do. You need some type of horror movies to fill out or watch before the decade ends, or just watch some solid horror movies. I definitely recommend It Follows and Hellfest. I think it'd be a very great drive-in double because it's kind of like more modern horror. They're both kind of more independent films. I definitely recommend checking these out. I also recommend that you check out my first drive-in horror double of The Driller Killer and The Sentinel, both 1979 films. I'll put that video in the link down below in the description. If you have any more horror double drive-in things you'd like to see or you want me to talk about, or maybe I need to watch because I haven't seen all the movies in the world. I'm kind of like Flickpick. That's how we're kind of similar. We haven't seen, well, I've seen more movies than him. I think he just watches over the top the whole time. But these horror movies, I'd love to hear more recommendations. Daniel and I on Cobwebs, I just recorded another podcast video with him where we talk about the Criterion horror movies. We do a triple feature. If you want to listen to that, I'll put a link down below on that. Other things I've been up to lately, I was on Nathan Jones's channel with Daniel and my roommate Seth. We kind of basically did a home invasion at Nathan's house and took some of his movies. We talked about them on his camera and then left. And then I think when he came, he saw the movies on the floor, and that's what he was most mad about, at all, was that the movies weren't put away properly. I don't know. It's kind of like his thing. So I'll put a link down below on that video. Like I said, thank you all for the support on this video. I really look forward to hearing some of your comments down below, maybe some recommendations. There is some new video ideas that I want to start on this channel. One of them being a favorite series where I just kind of talk about my favorite movies. And then I also want to do a video series where I just kind of talk about what I'm watching. And so like what movies have I been seeing lately? Maybe you want to hear my thoughts on them if you're not checking out my film. Oh gosh, Letterbox. I was about to say Filmstock, but that's Chris Bowie. But you know what? Check out his videos too. He just did a Dark Knight trilogy analysis. So, I mean, definitely check him out on that. But first, check out me before him. But my Letterbox, if you don't check that out, most of those reviews I write out, I usually speak them out. So definitely check that out. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm usually tweeting and adding a lot of celebrities, trying to get some momentum so I become an influencer of sorts. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you guys all got spooked and you're excited for the Halloween season that's going to be upon us soon. I know it's just around the corner in September. So anyway, my name's Chris here at Hertastic Reviews. This is Totoro from Spirited Away. Just kidding. I hope you don't. He's from My Neighbor Totoro. But anyway, my name's Chris here again at Hertastic Reviews, and I'll see you next time.